Welcome to the New World. This is a newly populated land which is beaming with all kinds of creatures found within it. Those who come here are researchers and the hunters who accompany them. Together, we're going to be taking a look at some of these creatures and the locations that they inhabit. To begin, we're going to be setting our sights on the ancient forest, home to a tree of monumental proportions, which is even visible from our research base way off in the distance. We've arrived at dusk in the ancient forest. There's presently slight rain showers, and as we traverse through the brush, we enter a clearing where we can spot a herd of aptonoth, getting ready to graze and drink water. Aptonoth are social herbivore creatures. They rarely cause any trouble and prefer to be left in peace. These social animals who prefer to travel in large groups are passive, but they will do their best to protect their young from any kind of predators. Speaking of predators, it appears as though one has spotted this group and set its sight on them. In the distance, making its way towards this clearing, we can spot another resident of the ancient forest. This is the Great Jagras. This beast is going to spell trouble for the Aptonoth as the Great Jagras is about to demonstrate a unique ability. After killing one of the Aptonoth, the Great Jagras would unhinge its jaw, creating a massive mouth as it swallows the adult Aptonoth carcass whole. This unique physiology of the Great Jagras allows it to swallow practically any massive creature in one single bite. Its stomach stretches out to almost unimaginable proportions, and it manages to waddle away back into the cave. Let's, however, leave the Aptonoth and follow the Great Jagras into the cave to see what it does now. Once inside of its lair, the Great Jagras would call out to its young. These are simply called Jagras, and they resemble their older counterpart, although they are much smaller and appear to lack the ability to swallow creatures whole. With the young arrived, the Great Jagras regurgitates a part of its kill for the young to feast upon. During this time, the Great Jagras retreats further into its cave. Rapidly, with their razor-sharp teeth, the Jagras would waste no time eating the food left for them. Although these small creatures often rely on the Great Jagras, they are fully capable hunters and should not be ignored. If we were to search further throughout the cave, we would find that the Great Jagras is already off at the other end of this cave and is ready to return into the ancient forest in an attempt to find more prey. The dense forest surrounding this massive tree is home to a litany of creatures, such as the Myrnos. These are small flying drakes who enjoy feeding on nuts. These small creatures rarely pose any kind of threat, and due to their diminutive nature, they're rarely ever hunted by any other creature or by hunters. We can also find nearby some vigor wasps. These are a unique insect that collects a substance known as vitality nectar in a large sac. This nectar can be used in a pinch by hunters to heal any damage caused to them during a hunt. Searching the forest grounds near this vigor wasp is another large creature much like the Great Jagras. This here is known as a Tobi-Kadachi, a unique hunter who unfortunately rushes off into the woods before we can see more of him. As we would continue to search through these woods for the Tobi-Kadachi, we would find something else, something much different. This is the mother dragon of these forests, known as a Wraithian. A Wraithian is a female wyvern who is extremely territorial and does not like to have other creatures within its domain. We can spot her here scratching the ground in order to mark her territory, and although most creatures fear her enough to avoid her and her poison-barbed tail, the Tobi-Kadachi is not. The small blue Tobi-Kadachi isn't as weak as it might seem compared to this large green wyvern, and although he lacks any fear towards the wyvern's roars, this shouldn't be viewed as ignorance of the threat, as the Tobi-Kadachi knows exactly what it's getting into. The Tobi-Kadachi would use its unique ability to charge electricity in its tail and strike the Wraithian before she even has a chance to react. Using its flying squirrel-like webbings, the Tobi-Kadachi can fly in close to the Wraithian, but before being able to attack it again, the Wraithian would manage to defend itself with a fiery blast from its mouth. Unfortunately, however, for this Wraithian, she would find herself beaten. Her attacks simply aren't enough to defend her, as she moves far too slow for this much faster Tobi-Kadachi, who once again manages to catch her off guard and knocks her to the ground with yet another electric tail attack. With that, the Tobi-Kadachi can now rush back into the forest as it leaves victorious and leaves this Wraithian to flee off into the woods. Leaving this highly territorial Wraithian in a now angered state could prove dangerous, and it's fortunate that we have a hunter on standby who is ready to go after it. Hunters use a unique creature known as scout flies to lead them to their targets. These glowing green insects can be trained to chase after any target that the hunter might choose. While on her hunt, the hunter would find herself approached by the aforementioned jagress. These small creatures might prove well against unassuming travelers or smaller prey, but against this veteran hunter, they hardly stand a chance. Only a few of these beasts need to go down before the rest of the pack know that they are outmatched and flee into the forest. Our hunter would traverse further into the forest where she would meet a unique tribal-like cat known as a grimalkine. These grimalkines can be persuaded to join the hunt by the hunter's unique companion that follows her, known as a palico. Palicos, like grimalkines, are small bipedal cats. The two may be related to each other, although the grimalkines were only recently found on this new land, and it's unknown exactly what their relation to the palicos are. Through the forest, there would be one last stop before finally arriving at the Raytheon, and that would be a pack of Kestodon. Kestodon are hard-headed herbivores, but unlike the Aptonoth, these creatures are extremely territorial and not nearly as clever as the jagress. This means that although a few of them have gone down, the rest do not realize that they are horribly outmatched, which means that our hunter here will have to deal with all of them before she can continue her search for the wounded Raytheon. Finally, with the Kestodon defeated, the hunter can continue further into the depths of this forest, and she would finally lay her eyes on the Raytheon. Although he is in the air and he is flying, which means that there's still a hunt to continue before the Raytheon lands. It wouldn't be before long, though, that she would catch up to this Raytheon. As she nears the top of the tree by climbing vines scattered throughout the tree, she would finally catch up to this Raytheon and would begin her hunt. Through her carelessness, perhaps due to the fact that it's been a while since she's been on a hunt, the hunter would get swiped by the Raytheon's poisonous barbs on its tail. Fortunately though, this would not slow down our veteran hunter, as she would continue to lay down the attack on the Raytheon. Although she would get knocked around a little bit, eventually the beast would be weakened to the point where it would try to run away. But not before our hunter would succeed in severing this wyvern's tail. The barbs found within this tail may be deadly to the touch, but they could prove to be useful in crafting weapons or simply sold to other hunters. The hunter would now have to scale further up the tree, almost to the top where the wyvern's nest is found. It's a long journey to get there, but once up, she would find this beast sound asleep as it attempts to recover from the wounds of battle. Unfortunately for this creature, however, the hunter would ensure that the Raytheon would no longer be a threat by defeating the Raytheon and ensuring that it would never breathe another breath. With but only a few swipes of her massive axes, the Raytheon would find itself defeated and collapsed on the ground as the hunter would go in and collect whatever parts it could from the deceased beast. With the Raytheon out of the way, the forest is once again quiet, and its inhabitants return to their lives as the hunter prepares to leave and return to her home. With that, we've reached the end of this look into the ancient forest. I wanted to try something a little bit different, and I've always thought that this kind of content would lend itself really well to Monster Hunter. If you enjoyed this quick look around the ancient forest and a few of its inhabitants, please let me know, because it really helps me figure out what kind of content to make by knowing if my viewers enjoy it or not. If you have any ideas of other videos that I should make, either similar to this topic or similar to the Sonic the Hedgehog videos that I sometimes make, or even anything at all, please let me know. I love suggestions. They really help me figure out a lot of my videos, and a lot of my topics wouldn't have actually been made without the input of the viewers. Ultimately, of course, if you didn't enjoy this, I would also like to know, because as aforementioned, it really does help me figure out the direction that I should be going in my content. Overall, I had a really good time with this. I hope at the end of the day that you had a really good time with this, but at the end of the day, as always, I just hope that you have a good one and that you enjoy this Canada Day weekend.